And we are live on YouTube. According to what this tells me, we are live.
We are live. Well, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Deb Epstein, and this is
Larissa. We are here again for our most months. I was going to say our monthly connection with spirit, but most months, I think we've missed one.
Yeah, we might have missed one.
Yeah,
but we've been doing this a while. We're coming up. Yeah, coming up on a year, I think.
I think you could be right. I was going to look actually, and then I forgot.
Do a quick check to see. Wow. Let's see. 9 months, a year. Yes, we're over a year in on these.
Wow.
I think we started last summer. Yeah. Happy anniversary. Belated.
That's amazing, actually, because we have been having these conversations here, but they started from our weekly chats that we were doing. And I was like, oh, I wonder how long we've been doing that, but obviously more than a year, because here we are live for a year now. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love it. And again, if people jump in, they want to say hi, or you have comments, please feel free to leave a comment, and we will loop you in. Sometimes we get caught up, and then we come back and go, oh, I wonder what that pertained to. But we will do.
We're good at looping back. We're getting better. We're getting better at that.
We're getting better at looping back.
Going off on those tangents and coming on back. Yeah. And he finally found us too. It's just takes a little time. So we have one person with us. Say hello as you're popping in.
Yeah.
And we're talking about imposter syndrome today.
Yes, which I'm sure everyone, well, most women has had some experience with.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my group this morning, and we were talking about labels, right? What we call ourselves, and the label of artist. And what brought it up was athlete, how, or being athletic, or, that it has a certain, my client was saying a certain, you have to be a certain level to be called that. You have to have a certain level of like maybe expertise or maybe success, depending on what you're doing. Right. And how that kind of hampered her, and, even just exercising, because, oh, you're just not athletic. You're just not athletic. Is people telling you that? And, or people saying you're not creative. Someone just says hello from Texas, Joe from Texas. And so, I think the labels that we have for ourselves, being an artist is one of those that carries a lot of weight. Like, when do you get to call yourself an artist? And when, and are you just pretending and being an imposter till you meet that criteria? And actually, I call myself an artist, and I actually don't even know what the criteria is. But I know I had that struggle in the beginning when I was in school, between when I was in school and when I was out of school. Am I an artist now? I don't know. I guess I'll just,
I always think if you create art, you're an artist. Yep. If you do athletic things, you're an athlete. Like, if you bake something, you're a baker. You may not be a professional baker. You may not be a professional athlete. You may not be a professional artist, but that doesn't mean that you're not an artist, a baker, an athlete. Because I think we put these levels of experience or levels of acceptance. I don't even know if it's experience, because we can have brand new people show up in a movie and they're professionals now. Well, that's an actor. Was that an actor yesterday? Maybe, maybe not. Hollywood's really big on, pulling people in that have never done anything. Like, oh, this is the perfect person to play this character. And so we put them on the pedestal that makes them into this celebrity actor. So, when we think about imposter syndrome, what are we being imposter to from? Because really, the criteria that who put in place.
Yeah. And I figured there has to be a purpose to the imposter, the pretender, the imposter. You're pretending to be something, or you don't want to be seen, maybe pretending to be something. What if somebody finds out? And so I guess that's an individual question. So yes, Joe says, if you're following your passion, you're an artist. Yeah. I also believe that I have a broader, like, we're just, all of us are creators. We're artists of our life, and, art, life is an art, to live it to the fullest, right? In your own way, by your own terms, by your own definition, creating what you love in your life, it's an act of creation. But like with the imposter, the pretender, and pretending to be, could we have that, fake it till you make it sort of thing, right? And what if people find out? So it's almost like, what secret are we holding? And that's where I was going with that, is there's an individual sort of like sturdy little secret that maybe we each hold within us, that the imposter is, protecting. What if someone found out that I, I don't know, didn't make up all this stuff, or, I didn't have an original thought ever in my head, or, it all depends on what you think you need to be doing as an artist too, I think, that there's this thing I was seeing on social media is an interesting thing that brings us out a lot too, because you see other people doing things and then you go, I can't measure up, I must be the imposter, And
maybe they're the imposter.
Maybe they're the
image,
imposter.
and behind the scenes, they're not doing any of those things.
Right. Yeah.
What does it mean to be an imposter?
Yep.
Because we can think we're an imposter because we think other people won't, if they knew how easy it was for us, then, they would think we were faking. And it's like, or it's just easy for us, and, whatever it is. And it might be harder for you, but that doesn't mean that I'm an imposter. And I think, this is a thing that we go through, I think, with a lot of things. I remember many, many years ago, I changed from oil and gas. I was in oil and gas for years and years, and I switched into the beauty industry. We won't even go there in how much worse that was than oil and gas. But anyways, I thought I was such an imposter because it was a completely different field. And so I didn't belong. I didn't even wear makeup, really. And I couldn't understand what was happening. But really, the skill set that I used in management to lead people was exactly the same as it was in oil and gas. But I felt like an imposter because I didn't fit the image that I had in my mind. Nobody else seemed to think I was an imposter. The image that I had in my mind of what I should look like, act like, be like, I'm not sure. And I think we do that to ourselves a lot. We do that to ourselves a lot, whether it's, in art, that's a perfect one, right? Because I'm not creative. I'm not an artist. And I know I often say, I do consider myself an artist, but I'm an abstract artist. And so when I go to draw a picture, I will clarify, I'm an abstract artist. And it's like, why do I feel the need to do that? Why do I feel the need to tell somebody that's because I call myself an artist? So now there's even nuances in what type of artist, what level of artist. It's very messy.
Very messy. Yeah, I know people ask that too. What kind of artist are you? And, whatever I say, visionary, mixed media, what do you work in? And it's just, that to me doesn't bother me at all, because I feel like people are trying to learn about what is this thing that and they're asking the questions, right? Because that is like, once you say what you do, right? I'm an artist. Well, what does your work look like? Well, let me whip out my phone and show you. Here's my Instagram, follow me. But no, I think that like it's questions that it's almost like we don't know how to talk to someone who's an artist or a spiritual person, or think there's a competition for knowledge. There's a competition sort of thing too. Would the imposter exist even if we weren't in, if we didn't have some sort of programming around competition? I've got to be better than the next. Yeah. Yeah. We got to be better than the next person. And how do you measure better than in art? When it's a personalized expression and we are all artists,
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I've had this conversation a lot lately, it seems. If you're going for realism, okay, then yes, there's technique and you can see, does it look like this thing sitting on the table? But any other art, who gets to qualify? Who gets to decide the value? And it's really the story. It has nothing to do with the art itself. It's the story that goes with it. I think we've talked about this before, the canvas that was painted white and sold for like millions of dollars. And, or there's people who make nothing drawing amazing drawings. So value is not the way we determine like the actual cost, but somehow we qualify it that way.
Yeah.
Qualify it that way.
Yeah. And if I can understand it, like why are the Campbell soup cans art? Why are, I was thinking of my trip to is it Duchamp when I was in Museum of Modern Art in New York over the summer. And I love it because he's taking like everyday objects and making them into sculptures. And what makes that art? It's really the artist's investigation. What are they investigating it? And that's what makes it art. What makes you want to buy it? That's up to the individual, right? And it's not about like, the imposter ripping people off, right? Let's see if they will buy this one, right? But maybe that's the art too.
Yeah.
How far on the edge can I go and call it art?
Yeah.
Or
you have somebody like Banksy.
Yeah.
Right. Street artist who is against all of this, and yet his art sells for millions of dollars. And like, even to the point where, didn't he build a shredder into one of his pieces? and then it sold for more when it started to shred.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Someone having fun with the system that exists, right?
I don't think he's actually seeing the money. Maybe he is. But it's just fascinating to me, this concept of what is valuable. And then we don't value ourselves, right? Feel we're an imposter. And the value is placed by what? Who?
Yeah. And I think that's what's shifting, because I think, and we were having this kind of conversation, like the conversation around value has to come up when we're talking about imposter syndrome, because we each have a perceived value of either the work we do in the world, whether it's art, whether it's spirituality, whether it's healing, whether it's, something like, I used to have this conversation with my husband, something that's intangible, an intangible thing. Because at the end of the day, what do you have when you're working with someone as a spiritual coach, a spiritual guide, or like a creative guide? It's an intangible, but it's a transformation that the person actually gets to live. They get to live it out in their life, and it's life-changing. And you've done this work, on the receiving end, and holy cow, like, you don't want to tell the person, I'm thinking of one, the highest price I ever paid for healing work, was in the thousands of dollars. And the results I had at the end of that, my week-long stay, there, it was so valuable to me. I would have paid more if they asked for it, because it meant I was getting my life back.
Yeah.
That was the value for me. And that these people who have done their own work to be able to work at that level to help me spent time, spent money, spent tears, spent pain, spent, all the stuff that we know that it takes when you're going through transformation. It's not easy work. All of that has a value. And so when you're helping another person that may be in a trauma situation, or they may be in depression or whatever, how do you translate? That's always the question, how do I translate? Like, my skills are worth this. I know what I've been through. This is what my skills are worth, and charging what I'm worth. And then the worry, what if they don't want to pay that? Or what if they don't see the value? Or what if they think I'm the imposter, right? I think the imposter kind of creeps in there when you're pricing your work, artwork too. How do I know what, do I price by the hour? Do I price, how do I price this?
Or price it by experience, or price it by, because
how much you're selling
in an hour. Well,
yeah,
but it also took me 30 years of experience.
Yeah. And with my work, I bring all of my work in through ritual and through, ceremony. So a lot of these paintings sit in ceremony for months and months and months before they're ready to go out. So they're getting energetically charged as well. They're healing pieces, they're medicine. Right. And so then that's a whole nother area to kind of like, how do I price this? Right. And I think that, I think for artists and healers, that is a big blockage there. And I think that the imposter syndrome starts showing up in there too.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And Joe just said, I happen to be a poet from time to time. How do you qualify a poem? And it's true. I mean, there are people who would tell you it's like this many lines or this many, whatever. I'm not a poet, but exactly that. Who gets to decide that it's a poem, or if it's a good poem or a bad poem, or who gets to decide that? And just what you were saying though with pricing, but also then how do you, like when you have a tangible item, I'm going to sell you this book. In this book, you will have the ability, like you can learn this. But when you're selling a service, such as spiritual work, healing work, to even know how to sell that, you have no guarantee, because the other person has to do the work,
right?
Facilitating, you're holding space, they have to do the work, so you can't guarantee it. And I can guarantee I'm giving you this book. Okay, I got the book. They know that they're responsible to read the book. But if you're selling a service, somehow that responsibility is on you, that they have the transformation. But if you sell them a book, the responsibility is on them to have the transformation. Which then I think not helps, hinders, causes more of that imposter syndrome in those of us who coach, who are healers, spiritual leaders, because it's then the onus is on me to make sure that you change. That's not how it works. I'm just there to
that's a recipe for burnout really quick.
Burnout.
I'll ask that question. Who here has experienced burnout? Because I'm pretty sure we have a lot of artists and healers that listen to us too. And, it's, I think too, the imposter, gets in the way of our next big leap, and if it's, especially if you've been, doing this work, and I'm thinking of certain people that I've worked with in the past, and maybe like, you were saying earlier where you were switching from working in a, oil and gas to beauty. And well, you've ultimately made into the healing, the leap into the healing world. And, there's, just in making those different leaps, I feel like, well, those are your initiations with the imposter, and thinking of a person in particular that wants to go from, I'm working in this corporate office, but, I've been taking Reiki classes and I've been taking art classes and I've been, really doing my deep inner spiritual work. And I really feel the call to help and I feel the call to serve. Who am I? Who am I to help anybody? I don't have like oodles and oodles of experience. And, there's all these people I see online doing all this stuff. And like, we shoot ourselves in the foot. I think we talk ourselves out of what our mission is supposed to be just because we start letting that imposter conversation creep into our mind.
And I think also along with, we start to, what's the wording? We start to switch things up to align with others when we know that if we align for our own selves, others will find us. And yet we will change what we do or change how we do it because we are trying to feel less of an imposter. I'm not sure. I don't think of that, but now as we're discussing it, I think that's very much it, which is then ego, right? Ego gets in the way and makes you go, I've had ego slap me upside the head a little bit this week. And,
it's funny. Is it spirit hitting the ego upside the head or ego?
I've had it come to the forefront that ego may have been, and I know that it's one that I've been working with. We've been talking about this for over a year now with the work we've been doing, and ego has definitely, and I would never have thought of myself as being a person of ego, and yet I get these constant reminders when ego gets in the way.
Have you heard the acronym for that, edging God out?
Oh, interesting. No, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, I think it's Wayne Dyer. Yeah. Edging God out. Edging God out. And like that spirit, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what ego does.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let me tell you, I know. I've been down this road. Other people are doing it this way. I know. Don't argue with me. I don't care what you have to say, spirit. That is probably the harder path. Follow me.
Every time I think, oh yeah, I got this. I know what I'm doing. And then something will happen and you're like, oh yeah, but I didn't pay attention. I knew it. I taught it. I didn't pay attention. Why didn't I pay attention? Well, because I knew better. I could do it a different way. No, that's ego, right? So taking a step back and and that's, I think, where imposter syndrome comes into it.
Yeah.
Is that when we follow our path, are truly aligned, are in touch with the divine, then it becomes easy and we think, oh, this can't be right because it's too easy. So if we struggle, we can show people that we're struggling, and then that makes it more real or unnecessary. I'm not sure.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I think, I don't know. I think the path of spirit is the harder path. And I think it's because of that tendency to edge God out, because it's like we're taming. I think that's what we're doing is we're taming our wild minds here. We think we know everything, right? We know, nothing. But when we can tap into spirit, the ease to me is that it's more of a feel, but my spirit, is really asking me to do something that scares the shit out of me usually. And that's where my ego will come in. And because my ego wants to keep me safe. Ego wants to keep me safe. It wants me in my comfort zone, once that, and I think that's where the saboteur comes into, and it's all subconsciously driven. Our ego is also part of our, it's our health system. It's our what's it called? Our immune system, our fight or flight system. And if you've had trauma before in your life, it's always going to, and past life too, by the way, past life too. You're not if you've had a past life that you think about women being, that I see this a lot out there right now, women being burned at the stake and healing that wound, and I was having, I don't know if I told you this, I was having a conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago. We were out for tea and it was like really crazy because I was having like this ankle pain out of nowhere, just like on my left leg. I never usually have any problems with that. So it's always my right side. If something's going to go wrong, it's always on my right side. And it was my left side. And it was just, I took a step. I didn't step on anything. It was like a normal step. And it was like through the roof. And I was literally hobbled. I was having a hard time walking on that leg. And I was having tea with her and she started talking about her feet are so hot. Like I feel like my feet are in the flames. And I just got this like, oh my God, like moment. And, I had just started reworking this painting and right where my thumb is, that symbol came up and I showed her that symbol. I got intuitive hit to show her that symbol. And I saw it again and she looked at it and we were both literally getting downloads while we were sitting in this place having tea. And it was like a lot of divine feminine wounding that was working through it. And when I got up from that, my ankle did not hurt and I could walk normally. So first of all, that was like amazing. And I really can't tell you like in a linear way, this is what it was all about. And I don't know why that story even just came up now, because I feel like I'm totally off track, but we do that. But there is something about the energy and how we're holding it in our body and our beliefs. That's where I was going with it. The belief systems that we use to keep ourselves safe and protected, because we don't want those things to happen again. And that's not even conscious. It's like your body doesn't want to have that fall again, and there's the metaphors, right? Like for me, my accidents were always falling on my face. So like when I'm doing something, you too, oh my God.
I always had black eyes, not broken nose, but nosebleed, because I was always on my face.
Yeah. And so when you're doing something new in life, right, or in your business, or you're growing to the next level, how much is that an underlying fear that you're operating from? The fear of falling on your face. You're not literally going to fall on your face, but if it fails, it's like, that's the metaphor, falling on your face, and then there's the whole walking on eggshells. If you're, also had to worry about a parent or keeping somebody happy all the time, your body starts to act like that too. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think imposter kind of comes in there too. If I start expanding out and start really being free with who I am, what are people going to say about that? How am I going to get chastised? How am I going to get made fun of? So I better do it to myself first. I better shut that shit down.
Yeah. I hadn't made that connection because I talk about the brain versus intuition all the time, right? So brain versus gut, spirit, divine, and how our brain is there. It does a great job keeping us safe. That's its job, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't discern between stepping in front of a car and trying something new, like, learning a new skill. So that's where intuition, divine energy comes from, is listening. And we've been taught not to listen any longer. The brain is so much a part of our culture, and how that whole energy works is because everybody's in their brain. Everybody's in that ego. Everybody is like in safety mode. And so we've been taught not to trust ourselves, especially women, right? Somebody else knows better. Somebody else has all the answers. You go to a doctor for this, you don't know your own body. Your doctor's going to tell you what's wrong with you. Usually wrong, I can tell you as a woman. They're usually wrong. But, somebody else always knows more than you do. And as you learn to tap in, but then, yes, then you have to decide, okay, when is my brain actually truly going to keep me safe versus, thinking it's keeping me safe. And so then you start like, can I trust my own self? And we've been taught not to trust ourselves, right? And so then imposter, of course, because everything is not true. Everything's not true. Because we've been taught not to trust ourselves. And I think that's an important thing to think about when imposter syndrome is part of that, because we're never an imposter. We are who we are. If we are consciously making a decision to be something different, we're still that thing, right? I'm consciously deciding I'm going to paint this picture I've never painted before. You are authentically an artist because you're painting. But we believe that we're not because we've never done it before. Oh, I just got this whole download of I'm like, oh, this is good. I need to process more, but I just kickstarted you. Go ahead, because my brain is now like doing the data thing right now.
I'm seeing all kinds of ones and zeros floating down here.
That's exactly what's happening.
Did she take the red pill or did she take the blue pill?
Oh my goodness. Yes. What is reality? What is reality?
Yeah.
And how can we ever be an imposter?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a story. And I think that it's, this is the work. The work is in the moving through it, listening to the voice that may be there and not letting it stop you. And that's what dark nights of the soul are all about, right? Because they don't, like, when you do something and you always, I'm thinking about the opening ceremony I did on Friday. There was a lot of people that were on the live, and the energy was supercharged. It was supercharged. And I got off the call and I was like, wow, that was awesome. Like, the energy was flowing. And it's not like, you will regulate that, because your bodies can't handle that supercharged energy all the time. And the more I find out about this, really interesting too, is that there are times too where our soul has had experiences that are, in other lifetimes that we were running all kinds of powerful energy that this body you're in right now isn't programmed for. And so sometimes that, soul connection coming in, we all have contact to our soul, but I think also what's happening in consciousness is we're also downloading more of our own selves. And so, people talk about frying their circuits and stuff like that, but I think it gets to be done in a gentle way. It gets to,
it can be,
and it gets to be done in a gentle way, because it's a different experience than how we work in the linear world of learning. Everything's available to us, but it's like, can we allow it to come through us without pushing too hard, without trying too hard, without calling ourselves names like, oh, you're such an imposter. Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. Right. It's like, if, we're talking about how there's pushback from the collective consciousness to maintain the status quo, and how it's those invisible forces that we fight against, right? And however you perceive those to be, right? And when and I know I've gone through this, and it's like in my younger years, I'm thinking, like, when I was in my 20s, how dramatic that would be for me, like waking up and, or actually thinking I was awake, actually not being really awake, and being dragged down the stairs and brought into a fiery place because I dared to break through some of my belief systems and stepping into who I'm really supposed to be here as. And it would shut me down for a while. I had some like freaky experiences, like in those lucid times in my dreaming, that I don't experience like in the same way. I think because I kept pushing forward through it. And back at that time, I didn't know to reach out for help. I actually didn't tell anybody it, because it's like, it's so weird. you know, like, because I got shut down real early, because when I did say something to a parent about that, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. It's a good thing they weren't religious back then. They would have had me at the priest getting exercised. But it's interesting. And it's that protection thing. So like in that instance, for me, I know that was some past life stuff that my subconscious mind was protecting me from. I was starting to enter into understanding more about spirit, understanding more about energy, and breaking through some, you know, taboos, really, you know. And growing up in Massachusetts, very close to Salem, which there is some stuff there, you know, that the land holds a lot of scarring, you know. Where I grew up on the South Coast was a lot of whaling, and you know, from the colonial times, the colonial wars, the Wampanoag Indians being disenfranchised by the Pilgrims coming in, and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of trauma in the land there, you know. And so there's a lot. It's a lot.
I was going to say something, and then you got me off on the traumas of the land, and I lost it. But it's interesting, the energy. Oh, that was what it was. Remembering. We don't, it's about remembering. We know everything, but we can't have everything, because it's too much in this body, in this, the way we are. So our soul knows everything. So it's not about learning, it's about remembering. And I think that's an important thing to think about. Even science is starting to figure this out now. Like, we literally live in this matrix. And it's, where is the energy? What is the realm that you're in this moment versus another moment? And it's super fascinating, because it's things that as a spiritual person I've known, but now even science is starting to figure it out. They can, well, qualify, quantify. I'm really struggling with that today. But they can they can see it, they can explain it, understand it. Maybe they can understand it. And it's interesting that we don't allow ourselves often to really experience or remember those things that we know, because, again, brain, ego, it's too much. Too scary to remember those things, to know those things. So the more you can open up into the understanding, the more you can remember, the more you're given. It doesn't mean you're not going to struggle, because we're human and we're going to do this stupid brain things. That's the first go-to. Our brain kicks in first. It's then we have to go, okay, yes, brain, I got this. I don't need you to like keep me safe right now. And that's, I think, the difference. The more you step into the understanding, the more you can be open to remembering. I feel like I'm just all over the place today.
No, I think you're good. I'm actually just kind of looking at what came through the chat. So, Anchored in Hope LLC. So are you from Cape Cod and part of the Mashpee tribe of the Wampanoag, or you're just kind of like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I want more on that one. So when you hear this. And then Joe says, could talk some about the hidden trauma and telling us we don't know what we are talking about. Are you asking for us to give you some more information, Joe, about hidden trauma? Yeah, can you clarify what your question is a little bit? I know typing is kind of hard, and then there's this delay. So I also have another question for those of you that are listening and haven't hopped in yet. I'd love to hear what you think about the imposter syndrome, and maybe how you experience the imposter syndrome in your life. Do you experience it? Does it stop you from doing something that you want to be doing? And, you know, what is it? And Okay, not part of the tribe, work with tribe. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying that. And your name is Lori. Lori, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, if you can pop into like, how do you experience this, and is any of this resonating with you? And like, let us take us a little bit deeper into this topic, kind of start diving in. I do know from working with people, it is a killer of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
It's because we listen to that more often than not. And I guess my question too is, like, if you are struggling in that right now, I'm not asking tons of questions right now. If you're struggling in that, and right now, what is it that has you listening to the voice of the imposter versus, what you know to be true? Are you in touch with your truth? Because I think that's part of it too. I think that's where you're going with it, Larissa.
But do you know it to be true? When you've been told in this lifetime not to trust yourself, do you know it to be true? Or is the brain, the ego, the one that you trust because that's what you've been told to trust? And I really do think that that's where most people are. And really, we all are at some point. No one is immune from that, because that's the brain's job, is to kick in and keep us safe. And again, doesn't know the difference between stepping in front of a car and learning a new skill. So we have to then learn to trust ourselves.
Yeah, it is the more you get to, I want to say, know yourself, trust yourself, or see, like, I'm thinking of a experience I'm having really, like, in this moment, is that those programs, and this might touch into what Joe was asking too, those programs, they're installed, they're running under the thought, they're running under the brain, they're running throughout your whole body, because the mind is the body. The mind creates the body. Everything is mind. Everything you see around you is the mind. That's in the Kabbalion as one of the 7 principles of the universe. All is mind, right? And so it's not about, like, we can't think our way out of it. The only way we can really catch those programs is to watch your behaviors, to get super honest, to see, like, we have go-tos, right? Here's one. Why do I always get the broken one, right? It's when our victim starts talking. Well, why is our victim popping up? We all have a victim. We all, it's not, and victim doesn't mean you're victimized. It doesn't mean, you're walking around being a victim. But how many people can honestly say that they never have a victim voice in there? They never feel man, I can't say that, disenfranchised, right? For some reason or another. And it's something outside of us that's making us feel that way, right? And then we know the truth that we've heard a lot of masters talk about. Well, nobody can make you feel a certain way. You're the one creating the thought. But then there's well, it's not fair. It's not fair, blah, 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 right? That's all ego, subconscious. It's all going on in there, right? And all of that conversation that I'm, like, kind of sort of having right now is all based on my past. And it's not like I'm sitting here, yes, I'm giving an example of it, but it's not conscious thought. And I think that's the hardest thing for us to wrap our minds around. It's it's not conscious thought, right? It's happening without you knowing it's happening. It's being able to catch it. It's the same mechanism that gets you on a bicycle and riding without having to think about every single thing you're doing. It's the same mechanism. It's a pattern. It's pattern behavior. It saves time. It's efficient. It's the reason why you don't spend all day walking from this part of the room to that part of the room, because if you had to consciously do that, that's all you get done all day, because it's exhausting to, okay, like, now I have to engage these muscles, and now I have to, like, let go of those muscles so I can, and then the whole balance thing. So it's all done subconsciously. And so with that, our behaviors also are that way. Our body moves according to our belief systems. There's always a belief system wrapped in a restriction, in a restricted pattern, always. And there's always an emotion that goes with it too.
And this is why I constantly say, if we can learn to feel and understand where in our body we feel something and start to connect, because we do these things, unconsciously, literally unconsciously, when we can start to connect all of those things, then we can start to go, oh, I get this feeling when this happens. Now I can see it, change it. But we can't do that unless we start to pay attention. And we don't want to pay attention. We've been told not to pay attention because it's hard. We have I just wanted to, do you want to read some of those?
Yeah. So, okay, cool. DLS author says, I'm experiencing some success with my writing, success that I worked so hard and so long for, and suddenly feeling like I don't deserve it and questioning my success and my right to it. Yeah, I feel the pain of that, right? So it's like, what part is now rearing its head to keep you safe? Are you, what happened to you to block, so you didn't block your success, you got it, but now I can't enjoy it. It is funny. I don't know. I was watching the show the other day, and it's almost like the same exact thing. It's the show is called The Bear on Hulu, and it's Jeremy Allen White playing the part of this chef, and he's opening up this amazing restaurant, and it's opening night, friends and family night, and he gets locked in the fridge, and he's sitting in the fridge, and everybody's doing the stuff, and he's missing out. And so that's subconscious programming, right there. And so it's like really getting down and dirty with like that part of you that won't let you enjoy it. Like, what I would say is make a character out of it. Whose face is on that? Who's telling you can't enjoy it? And that's a great place to start there. You want to read the next one?
Andrea England, my imposter is my fear and anxiety, my ego versus my spirit. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, because our brain ego is trying to keep us safe. And so, of course, fear comes in, which then begets anxiety, right? Because it's just too much. It's like we are programmed to live there because of what goes on in our society, because of what's going on in our childhood. Our whole lives are programmed by fear. Think about news, church, schooling. Everything is programmed by fear, because that is the go-to. So of course you're going to go there. And so remembering that that's where you're going to go, being conscious of that, then you can start to look at it in a different way. Yes. Okay. This is my brain telling me I'm afraid. Yes. My brain is telling me these things because that's my brain's job.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because as you're talking to him, like, yeah, and our courage resides in our heart. Right. And the root word of core, COR, courage, is heart. It means heart. And that is, so we have to come from up here down to here and live from here. And yeah, it's going to protest like crazy, but that's your truth. When you're talking about your truth, I think I might have gone to the next one. I definitely hear the voice of the imposter and have to question what do I tell myself? And the truth is, yeah, it's the more you get to know, like the more you operate down here and everything. And this is what I think comes down to. It's a practice. Practice is not about getting it perfect or getting it right. And it's funny, I heard some parents say that to their kid, what is practice? Practice makes perfect. I'm like, that should be like, we should like nix that one. I didn't say anything because I'm like trying to not be a coach when I'm out having fun, but but it's still like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a program. Do you see how subtle like our language programs us, and it's like practice. No, practice. It's not called getting it right. It's not called getting it right. I loved when I started my bodywork practice that it's called a practice. I'm not expert. I'm learning with each person I work with, developing my skills. I'm still getting treated. I'm still going to classes. And every time I do the work and touch someone or work with someone in that way, I learn something from each body, each individual, because each one each of you is so unique.
Mhm.
And yeah, you may all have, like, this is what I've noticed too. So I got to have 10 patients that have lower back pain, and it's all in there for a different reason. It's all in there very uniquely. And so when we talk about healthcare and you go to a back surgeon, well, you're all just going to get surgery because that's what we do with it. We're not going to find out why you created it. We're not going to find out like what your underlying traumas are, if there is any. We're not going to find any of that out. We're just going to cut it out, and you're going to get treated this way. And that's why we have so many problems when we resort to that one size fits all.
We don't go after the cause. We're very reactive, right? And so in our medical, like Joe's comment, blame me, everybody else does. That's when,
that's
get very tied to. And
and then you're walking around like that, right? You're walking around.
And that's the energy you bring to you.
I remember, like, and these are the little tells, right? When in my younger years, like I would say to one of my friends, what is it? Do I have a sign that says walk all over me? And like, the more I found out about energy and how it works, I'm like, I literally did. That's why people are doing it. But that's actually like, when you start to notice that as a thing, you know, that is a very good clue that, you're probably shouting that out energetically, and everyone's just picking it up. Because we all feel each other and we don't even know we're feeling each other, you know, body language, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we can be really conscious of it when we're watching somebody talk and we're looking at their eyes and we're seeing if they're playing with their hair or like how they're holding their body. And we read each other without consciously like having that dialogue. Oh, well, now, you know, the blow by blow in your head, right? Well, they're doing this and now they're doing that. And that means that. And then, you know, it's so seamless, right? It flows, and you feel the person, whether, you know, you're going to feel whether you trust them or not based on their body language and how they're showing up with you. And we do that too, right?
And even if it's not body language, just the energy that's coming off of somebody. And most people are so oblivious to that. Your body knows. You might tense up. It's, you know, as women, we often, you know, if we're walking somewhere and then, you know, someone's looking at you and you tense up, and because our body knows this is a thing. We may or may not recognize it. We might just, you know, quicken our step or something, but our body knows the energy, even if we don't see what's happening.
Absolutely. Andrea England, my inner victim is programming from a critical parent. Well, you can't. How are you going to do it? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. I had a critical grandparent. When you'd show her something you were really proud of, she'd find something wrong with it. She'd always find something wrong with it, you know. Because it was a grandparent, it was easier for me to kind of like, after a while, I'm just not going to show her anything. Because I'm just going to line up for, you know, being picked on here, you know. So, but then look at that too, because that just ruined a relationship, because now that trust, right? The trusting, you know, I'm not going to sign up for this kind of garbage, right? But then there's also like, when you start to get to know yourself on a certain level, you start to know what you're going to put up with and what you're not going to put up with. And I read in, and I always loved that he said that, I can't think of his name right now. It's the 4 Agreements guy. He says in there that the level of abuse that you put up with is in equal measure to what you do inside of yourself. And because you're willing to take it from yourself, you will take it from others. And, you know, rule of thumb there, like when you hear the inner voices beating yourself up, you know, what do we do about that? You know, and that's a question for you guys too, because I love that you guys are throwing all this stuff in, because it's a juicy topic. And I'm, you know, really happy that you guys are participating in this way.
Anchored in hope, I practice something called 2-way prayer. I write and listen for spirit, or whatever you want to call it, to answer writing. There's something in the way here. Both down. Sorry, there was something in the way. I call this intuitive journaling. right? I do this on a regular basis, and I even teach it on the business side as well as the healing side, because this is how we tap in. This is how we start the conversation, start to pay attention, is to ask the question and write the answer, ask the question, write the answer. And I think I like that name though, two-way prayer. That's
yeah, I like that too, two-way prayer. Yeah.
But that's how we start to understand what is going on within, and to stand in our own power. And just to go back to Andrea's, you know, there's one of, well, at least two ways. I am very much a boundaries person. So it's like, if you don't fit into this box, okay, you're going to go over here so that I can look after myself and make sure that I'm taken care of. But then there's also, I am in such a good place that whatever you say or do doesn't make a difference, right? And a myriad of in-betweens. And sometimes I think when I cut people off or things out of my life because of these boundaries, is it because I'm not able to go deep enough to be okay within self? And then, so I need to make my world safe. And I don't know that there's a correct answer to this, because it's going to be different for everyone and probably every situation. But this is something I question myself on, is, am I keeping myself safe by removing the object or the objection, or so that I don't have to, not or, so that I don't have to do that work, to feel truly worthy, right? And I don't know that there is a correct answer for this one.
Yeah, it's funny because I have feelings about that. And I think that, it's good. Yes, protect yourself, but still do the work. You don't need to have the person browbeating you all the time to do the work. And it's amazing when you pray for others and I've had this experience this year, which is, I never thought I'd have this experience with a certain person that was always a family member that was, very brutal to my husband and me, especially as his wife. And I'm like, no way. But at a certain point, like every Wednesday, I do a link up practice in our tradition, in the Pachacutee Mesa tradition. Wednesday night, typically we, gather around at our own individual mesas. Not, they do offer an online thing too, if you want to do that. But it's just plugging into the field basically. So it's not an organized thing. It's between this time and this time. And, the field is full, and you can actually feel it when you're tapping in, because, people are doing it globally at a certain time. And it's really powerful. And so the way the progression of this ceremony goes is that, you fill up with light, you plug into the altar, you plug into the earth, you do an earth healing first. And then after that, and you have to charge up first. You charge up first, you do the earth healing, and then you invite people in. We my husband and I said we're throwing them into the field, but we're just really sending love and light to different people. And we're just imagining that light being surrounded by the light, and they take it or they leave it. And this one particular, actually we have a few people that we were doing that with that are the challenging people in our lives, right? The very challenging people in our lives that, maybe we felt victims of, or, whatever, we have stories. Anyway, it is an amazing practice. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. And a lot of my own stuff came up around that. Well, I don't deserve that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right. So it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter, because what you're doing is you're working through your own shit, right, around it. Because in actuality, if we're all one, I am that too.
Yeah,
I am that too. But that doesn't mean that I don't keep myself safe from it. Right. That doesn't mean I go up and allow myself to get annihilated. Right. So it's a balance. You keep yourself safe. The miraculous thing in all this, and we were doing this for, I don't know, a good 9 months or maybe almost a year, and the person frickin' came around and started like apologize, which I did not accept right away, because I was like, I don't trust this. Like, what kind of new form of punishment is this coming up? How is this going to bite me in the butt? Right. But I was honest enough to tell them, and this was hard for me to do. I was honest enough to tell them that, thank you for that apology. I hear what you're saying, and I'm asking you to give me a little time to move through some of the wounding I experienced in relationship with you. He's totally okay with it. And that, because he was totally okay with it, it actually helped heal me a little bit more on that.
Yeah. And I don't think we can, if we want to make personal change, I don't think that we cannot do the work. We have to do the work. It's whether or not we do it in proximity, because you're always going to run into these people that are going to trigger something until you do the work. Might not be that person, it's going to be somebody else. That very much so in my life. Someone new just comes in and replaces them. And okay, so then what do I still need to look at here? What do I still need to look at? And when we do, coming full circle back to imposter syndrome, when we can when we can step into our own authenticity, whatever that looks like, and know that our brain is going to fight us, it's going to tell us that we're false, know that we cannot be false because we are who we are, and then starting to shift towards then feeling into it. I don't even want to say believing it, because it's feeling into it. You have to feel into it. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, agreed. And something I was going to say about that too. Yeah, this helped me out so much in the beginning too, is knowing I didn't have to have the harder lessons all the time, that you can actually ask have it easier. I'm going to still do the lesson. I'm still gonna learn about it. Can I have it in the form that's a little bit easier? And, as an example, I have a family member that I had to shut down, and we didn't speak for 20 years. However, I would see her showing up in different people, but it wasn't like the full out form. It would just be like, oh, this reminds me of behavior she used to do. And this is behavior. So if I could get it on that smaller level, it was so much easier to get for me. And it got me out of being victim to it all the time, because there are certain people, and, especially when you've grown up in a really abusive situation, that victim is really online to keep you safe. And so you don't want to further victim the victim, and we want to be gentle with that part of ourselves. So it's really, if you can form that relationship with that part of yourself too, without making it bad, without making it wrong, and hold that part of yourself lightly, and ask for easier lessons. I'm going to do the work. I'm fully committed to the work, but, can we do it slower? Where it's not going to set me up for all kinds of resistance. Yeah. In pieces. Yeah. When you do it in bite-sized pieces, somebody said to me too, not too long ago, it's a huge piece of cake. You don't have to eat it all in one bite.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Wow. This has been another amazing conversation. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
From me, no, I think we've covered the basis. I'd love to hear what other people are saying, but I know there's that delay and we want to hop off. But I think, just reiterating, like, be gentle and let the lessons come easier. Ask for that from your higher self, when you're doing your two-way prayer practice, and, love on yourself. Love is the answer to everything, I think. Even with the imposter.
Even with the imposter. And I think just remembering that brain ego is doing its job, but you don't have to believe everything it says. It's really important too, right? Learn to feel into it. Really important. Now, you just did your summit.
Yes, that just wrapped up.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, it was really good. You were a part of it, of course, one of the wise women who joined us in there. And we had a beautiful closing ceremony yesterday where
I missed it all.
I had everybody call you in. So we called you in energetically, and we just flooded you with gratitude and love. And so hopefully you feel that working through your life. And we're in the replay period right now for the next couple of days. And yeah, what's coming up next is entry into the cosmic womb. It's an ongoing program. The next season starts on October 16th. We start a new 3-month series. We're working on ourselves as Oracle and our multidimensional selves. So really getting in touch with the vastness of who we are and channeling that through our work and the things that we need to do to clear the channel. So that's kind of what we're doing. And it's exciting to do that work with a group of women who are just all about it, And so right now I'm running a special that it's a investment of $333 a month if you sign up before the end of the week.
Yeah, and get in there quickly.
Yeah.
We have our Healing with Love Summit, which you're a part of. We had to push the dates back because of my health. Which is a whole other story we could talk about when we don't pay attention and what happens to our health. And so, but that's coming up next week, I believe, or where we push it back to. And then Awakening, first week of October, we have our new season of Awakening, which is about stepping into the feminine divine and really tapping into those energies that allow us to heal and balance from the over masculine energies that we have in our world. Allow us to balance that. So yeah, that's what we have coming up.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, that program. Yeah.
I think you have your program, I have my program. There's so many of us now that have a very similar, different but similar, because of this collective energy that is happening. So whoever resonates with you, whatever program matches your schedule, or whatever it is that you need, but be a part of something, because I think it's really important to be a part of this collective energy consciously. And that's what these programs are helping us with, I think.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Anyone on the replay, please still leave comments. And we will say goodbye for today, and we'll be back next month. Let's see if I can